The self-proclaimed third coming takes the win in the qualifying to pole.
Where you're going with that one?
It was his own words.
Hello and welcome back to the British Touring Car Podcast. You might notice we're somewhere different.
We are.
We are down in Kent in our accommodation before attending the racetrack tomorrow.
Got to be very careful how you pronounce that for YouTube.
Yes, definitely. And we've just looked back and watched the race to pole. We unfortunately haven't seen qualifying.
Oh no.
Or the qualifying part of the race to pole, if that makes sense. Because we were travelling down at the time, but we don't feel like we've missed out on too much, do we?
No, not at all. I just noticed a massive crack in the glass of the...
Yes.
Okay, good to see.
Taking the pole for the race to pole, if that makes sense, was Ingram.
If it does, please write in.
Yeah. From Ingram, from Carish, from De Leon, with Sutton starting in fifth. It's a fairly regular grid. There weren't any major surprises or anything like that. Dorlin was fairly low down, following not much testing time this morning from having an engine change after FP1. And Moffat was quite low considering where the other two Audis were as well.
And a quick reminder as well is that once you have done the first part of qualifying, you can make no changes to the car that affect performance or setup, etc. You can only swap like-for-like components with Mr. Riches or another of the TOCA delegates breathing down your neck and inspecting each piece to make sure. So if you have got yourself in a bit of a pickle with the setup, you are stuck with that until Sunday morning. Yeah,
there's always that worry of if you do pick up some sort of damage or a knock on a curb or something throughout that session, that you might then struggle in the race. But it didn't appear to see that anyone had any difficulties, and they would all go on to start the race to pole on the soft tyre. It's an entertaining start, I must say.
Yeah, as was the case in Donington Park a couple of weeks ago. The opening few laps are interesting, and then the rest of the race, not so much. But let's start with the positives, and then I'll sweep up the negatives later on, as I always do.
As you would probably expect, De Leon got a cracking start off the line and managed to get in between Ingram and Camish, who started off the front row. He didn't manage to take the lead, however, because Ingram went fairly defensive into paddock, which very much nearly opened the door up for Sutton at that point.
It was a start of two phases for Ingram. Initially, I thought he'd bogged down quite a lot, but by the time he got to Paddock Hill Bend, he'd sort of picked up the pace again. It looked like he'd maybe got a bit of wheel spin off the line. And as you say, Sutton and Camish behind had to pick which directions to go and where to try and slot themselves in. And as is often the way of Ash Sutton, he picked the right route.
He did. He tried to have a go at Ingram coming into Druids effectively, but Ingram shut that door quite abruptly. And then De Leon had quite a big say in a door being opened down into Graham Hill.
Yeah, I've not got a lot wrong with this, in my opinion. It's a late move. It's a late move, but I think Tim Harvey was incorrect in his commentary. I think the door was open. I don't think it was closed. I think there was space for a lunge. I just think that it looks worse for De Leon because he's locked up into it. And that is a problem we've seen with the F1 last week. What can happen if you lock up going into somebody? I get that, but I don't think the move was outrageous. I don't think it was one of the... But this way, I think it was more on than Sutton's was at Donington a couple of weeks ago, where he ended up on the grass and out of the race to pole qualifying event, sprint thing. I think the door was open. I think, Ingram will obviously be upset with the outcome. It was quite an aggressive move in the end, but I think it's difficult. That is, in my mind, what touring car racing is.
Yeah, he was up and over the inside of the curb at Graham Hill, pushing both drivers wide, which is why Sutton then had the momentum to go and take the lead down the back straight. This managed to drop Ingram down to fifth behind Collard, where he actually stayed for the rest of the race, and he didn't make any progress back up and through the field, which I thought he might actually do.
Yeah, there's always possibility for some damage. You don't know if the track rod end had been knocked or suspension had been knocked, or these cars are so... if you get the chance throughout the season to go and see them balancing them on the pit lane with the bits of string and stuff, like these cars are so finely tuned that just a little knock either way really can make a big difference. I do wonder whether potentially that's what's happened here, and he's picked up a bit of damage and he's thinking to himself, I could push this car, but am I going to make the damage worse, and is that going to make me fall down the grid? Or do I say, do you know what, I'm fifth.
Fifth's not too bad.
It's not too bad.
Sunday start,
it's not great that my championship rival was up the field, but is it better to start fifth than it is back of the grid? Obviously, it's better to start fifth.
Graham Hill Bend was pretty much the area where most of the action happened, because on lap 2 it looked like Rainford and Morgan had a coming together going down into there. And then with that, Rainford had been pushed wide, managed to sort of half collect Chilton and push him wide as well.
I mean, if Rainford was wide, Chilton was. He was bunny hopping over the grass at the edge of Paddock Hill. Edge of Graham Hill. Apologies. So
they both dropped down pretty much to the back of the field at that point and had to start recovering their way through. Morgan didn't seem like he had too much of an effect. I just think he was, or from what I saw, he looked like the aggressor in the first instance.
Yes, but I also think it's a classic case of concertinaing in the early few laps. There was a lot of cars in and around them. It's not like it was Morgan and Rainford and nobody else near them. It's a case of that, the track cannot accommodate more than 3 cars wide, and there are about 5, 6, 7 cars going for the same piece of tarmac, and that is what touring car racing is at the crux of it.
Yeah, it certainly are. Dorlin from the back of the grid on lap 4 have managed to make his way all the way up to 15th. New engine on board.
Let's get my cup of tea.
Okay. New engine on board always kind of helps with that progress. Nice strong engine at the start of the race is always beneficial. And he carried on decent pace throughout the race as well, making up a few more positions later on. There was a good battle between the Laser Tools boys and Selby and Osborne.
A good battle is an understatement. Yeah.
But yeah, they were chopping and changing on the edge of the top 10 first of all. Chilton was trying to obviously recover the positions that he lost. He managed to get back past Rainford and then had an interesting attack on Rowbottom.
Yeah, I was going to say, we don't really mention Rowbottom yet. Shall I put my helmet on? Hasn't had a particularly good Saturday here. Wasn't particularly strong in qualifying and wasn't making up a great deal of space in the race. But
no, considering where Morgan started inside the top 6, you thought, okay, if Morgan can be up there in the car, as Rowbottom got possibly some setup issues or something like that.
Always a possibility.
Because he wasn't making brilliant progress. Rainford and Rowbottom.
Surprised though, because he's running an exhaust manifold that has never been seen before, and it's so light. It's lighter than this cup of tea, so it's a miracle to see him so far down the grid.
Rainford and Rowbottom then had a clash together on lap 10. This was all for 18th position overall. No points, no anything, just glory.
I will say that on both drivers here, it was looking a bit silly at times.
It was tit for tat, wasn't it?
It was tit for tat, and I'm thinking to myself that, as you just pointed out there, it's for 18th, lads. Like, don't get the cars home. Like,
I know.
I wasn't overly impressed with either side on this. I think that Rainford could probably argue that he was the bigger victim. But yes. I do think that both were giving tit for tat, as you say, and it looked a bit petty.
Both cars had wounds, it's fair to say, at the end of the race.
Yeah.
And then we get back onto the Laser Tools boys, who, again, more action at Graham Hill. Now, was this Aaron Taylor-Smith turning in on Shedden, or was it a Shedden dive bomb?
I think the door was open for Shedden the same way I think the door was open for De Leon.
Yep.
I think that on the flip side, though, I think that even though the door is open, that's the sort of move you don't pull on your teammate. I will say that. Whereas De Leon owes Ingram nothing.
I don't think Taylor Smith was expecting it because it was his teammate.
I accept that. Put it this way: it's a move that I think is on, as long as the car in front isn't your teammate.
Yeah.
I think otherwise, the move is definitely on. It's worth a go. I think if your teammate's in that situation, it is daft. But what should we say? Both Shedden and Taylor Smith are on the more, what's the word I'm looking for?
Old school.
Combative side of racing. They're not quite
old school style.
They're not quite the Ingram thread the needle approach, shall we say? But I was put it this way: I was very surprised to see that from 2 teammates. As I say, I think the move was on.
Yep.
But I wouldn't be happy pulling that on my teammate if I was in the same situation.
That's fair enough. Then more unlucky circumstances for Cook. Suffered a puncture going up into Druids on the penultimate lap. Not the first time we've seen a Toyota with a puncture.
That's Cook's 3rd puncture of the season. Obviously had one on media day. Had one at Donington Park whilst running in 3rd.
Yep.
In the main race.
And Buxton had one at media day as well.
And now a puncture today.
Yeah, it doesn't look brilliant. I think they've got to possibly fine-tune the setup. Cook at times was looking quick in that race and was making some good progress back through the field.
He was coming to be in the top 10.
But it could be due to the setup and then have a detrimental effect later into a race.
Can I just say, this is one of the reasons I don't like this as an event.
Okay.
Because in my mind, punctures, they're not random, but there's not a lot the driver can do. The tyre can go like that without any prior given warning. And now Cook is having to start from the back of the grid tomorrow after he qualified okay, nothing special, but okay. And now he's got to start at the complete back of the grid for something that potentially, I don't think in 90% of punctures it's the driver's fault.
Yeah. No, I can agree on that.
So I think that, he might have just run over a bit of debris. He might have just clipped a curb in the wrong way.
The argument against that is luck goes through peaks and troughs throughout the season.
It does.
And he may well get it back somewhere else in the season.
But there's no way for him now to save his race day. The point is that he qualified where he qualified, and that's completely up to the driver. Even if there's an issue with the car, you have to drive around it. That's up to the driver. Today, he is now at the back of the grid tomorrow for something that is purely based on luck.
You could have something similar happening in qualifying and actually put you off.
You can, but if you can get yourself back to the pit lane, which he did, he could put a new tyre on and go back out and set another time, unless he's caused a red flag, which I agree with you, and there's always going to be that trade-off. I completely accept that, but I think that in the qualifying, you've got more of a chance to get back to the pits and put it right. Here, you are screwed, and you're now at the back of the grid tomorrow, and it's hard to see with this particular grid, and it's a strong grid, and there's not particularly many weak drivers or cars.
Grid as well. We saw that from the times that were set in those 2 15-minute sessions.
Unless you're Sutton or Ingram, who can come from the back to the front with relative ease, it would seem. That's going to be 2 weekends in a row now for Cook, where people would say he might be a dark horse for championship. I'm telling you now, that's over.
Yeah. Then going on to the final, coming towards the end of the final lap, we all thought that De Leon had got it wrong.
I think he thought he got it wrong.
Yeah, coming into the final corner, he looked like he was running wide, possibly with a puncture of his own, but he managed to keep it out of the gravel only just, and keep that second place over the line to finish just behind Sutton.
Crucial he kept it out of the gravel because he was on a final limit for track limits, although to be fair, are they monitoring that corner?
Probably not.
It's probably only Graham Hill that they are monitoring this weekend. And in fairness to the mark or to the decision that you might make there, that is the only corner on the circuit you can properly cut, I would say, without going off on the grass. And you can cut clearways, but you're going sort of rally crossing. So
Sutton took the win from De Leon and Camish, with Collard a fairly reserved fourth.
Yeah, but it's a good result though. I mean,
quietly good.
I remember when we made our pre-season predictions, and we had Collard. We both had Collard in our top 10. A couple of people were saying in the comments that that's too high.
It might be if he doesn't during half season.
Yeah, but we didn't know that at the time.
Yes.
Point is that he's had a very strong start to coming back to the touring car, so it's good to see him back in there. It was also nice to see him flashing his lights at Camish throughout the process. It's always nice to see that.
Trying to scare other drivers off the track.
Absolutely. Behind him, Ingram finished ahead of Morgan. Solid for Morgan. Mikey Dover had a pretty anonymous session, finishing 7th from Dexter Patterson, who was flirting with pole at points during the initial part of qualifying. We then had Aaron Taylor-Smith and Shedden rounding out the top 10 from Osborne, Dorlan recovering to 12th, Smiley, Chilton, Rainford, Moffat, who has had a dreadful Saturday, Rowbottom, Buxton, Cook and Hamilton. So Cook did finish ahead of Hamilton, even though Hamilton did have to come to the pits at some point.
Yes, he for a few laps, so that put him laps down, whereas Cook's puncture was so close to the end of the race, he only lost a lap, I think.
Yeah, exactly.
Thoughts ahead of tomorrow very quickly?
I predicted in the preview that I didn't think that we'd see a podium for Napa or a win for Sutton or Ingram on Sunday. I'm
confident?
I'm very much less confident, I still don't necessarily think Sutton wins race 1 tomorrow. He will only have 1 second of boost. I know he had 1 second of boost during this race as well.
But that was per lap.
Yep. It's going to be reduced a lot for the race tomorrow, and the cars behind him are going to have it. I also think De Leon starting second with the rear-wheel drive will give him a big edge going into race 1 tomorrow.
I'd be amazed if he doesn't lead into Druids.
I agree with you. And I think we'll have to see what Ingram can do. This is an interesting conundrum now for Ingram. Do you go aggressive and force yourself into the conversation, or do you just do a bit more of a Turkson stance and just bank the points where you can?
I think for the opening race, obviously, I think it depends, one, how the start goes. If the start goes smoothly and it's fairly clean across that top 5, top 6, then I think Ingram's got to look at the fact of trying to finish that first race ahead of Sutton and then just keep building the points over the weekend and clawing that gap that was created with his disappointing opening weekend at Donington.
Yeah, I still think the BMW is going to be strong tomorrow. I still think that the Audi is going to be strong tomorrow as well.
Possibly not Moffat, but we'll see.
Yeah. I am less confident of a no Napa podium. I'm more confident of a no win for Sutton or Ingram than I am a no Napa podium. But I think both those predictions are now looking a little bit pie in the sky, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
You have, just for the record, got a point. You did predict that Ingram would get pole, but neither of us got the race to pole qualifying sprint event right. So
no. Well, we'll catch you up with all the action from Sunday. And if you haven't done it already, do go down below, subscribe, get that bell on, make sure you're keeping up to date with all the videos and podcasts that we do release. We know how many people out there aren't subscribed yet. We want you to.
And if you're out at the circuit tomorrow and you see us before the race event, reminder, you can always come say hello, come chat wheel with two people that don't understand any of it. And we have got with us some more touring car stickers. Yep. So by all means, pop along, say hi, and see you tomorrow.
Yeah, if we see you then, we'll see you then. If not, we'll be back with a review on Tuesday.
Bye for now.